I'm a kid from London, from the East End. You've got to think about my parents came here from Barbados. Would they have ever thought when they came over here, in the 70s, that their son would have ended up as a chief super? It's one of their proudest moments, and it's one of mine as well. When I joined the Met, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me. Some good times, fantastic times. Also, you're going to have some bad times, and you just got to work through those. A plainclothes operation in central London. Me and a gentleman engaged in a conversation where I suspected him of something, and then my colleagues just jumping on him and putting him to the floor. And then when I saw him on the floor, he had like an 8-inch kitchen knife, and he told my colleagues that he was come there tonight to kill me. He thought that I was somebody who had sold him fake drugs. There was a moment there where I actually thought to myself, you know what, this is going a bit too far here. This really could go completely wrong. It's about building really good relationships with our partners, our communities, and building relationships with other forces across the region as well. It's one of those moments where I have to say, Mel, I have to give you a little bit of a fist bump, yeah.
Amazing.
I'm proud to be a police officer. I'm really proud. I wear the uniform with pride. I'll say it's one of the best jobs in the world.
Welcome to More Than the Badge, a Kent Police podcast. My name is PC Melissa Marsh, and I'll be your host today. Today's guest is Chief Superintendent Sean White. Sean transferred to Kent Police from the Met 4 years ago and is now Head of Strategic Prevention here. Welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me what's inspired you to become a police officer.
I think it started many years ago, and it's the conversations that my dad had with me as a child, sitting on his knee, telling me about Barbados and our relatives there who were police officers, and their adventures as police officers. And I think it started there, that was my real inspiration. And you just grow up with it, don't you? You either want to be a cop or you don't. And as a kid, I grew up watching Starsky and Hutch. That might be, you may not remember that, Starsky and Hutch, Miami Vice, The Professionals, Cagney and Lacey. They're real cop programs that I remember. And I think also, I just always remember when I was about 7 or 8, and there used to be this police officer. He was about 7 foot tall to me. And I just thought to myself, look, I just want to be like you. So this is where I am. This is where I started, basically.
Have you always been part of Kent Police, or where did you initially start?
Oh, gosh. 1995, it all started. Hendon Police Training School. I can remember going there and my dad taking me to join the Metropolitan Police Service in London. I tell you what, it was one of the most proudest days of my life. But also, there was good times and there were bad times. But the majority of times, they're absolutely fantastic. I look at the Met now, it's completely different to what it was like when I joined. Mm-hmm. And that's really good in a lot of ways. When I joined the Met, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me.
So was that just as a normal police role, or did you branch out into different roles as well?
So look, I started off in my probation in Kentwith State LPT. And I can remember my first day there and my first arrest on team. Mm-hmm. So, when I always see the colleagues in Kent in LPT, I always get that little urge to say to myself, I wish I could go out in the car with them. First arrest, Leicester Square, going around the back streets of Leicester Square, and there was a gentleman there, and it was arrest for Section 5 Public Order Act. It was quite rude and abusive, and I remember arresting him. But I started off there, and then from on relief, I went to, it was just like a mini crime squad. Because I always had interest, of being that detective and, going out there and, and chasing the bad guys. But I spent 7 years as a uniform cop, on LPT. So I did the crime squad, I did a little bit of neighbourhood policing. I did put an application into CID, but then one of my friends said to me, look, you really do need to go and join the territorial support group. So I spent some time there, and I got promoted from there to become a sergeant. So the TSG in the Met is riot police, and I would say it really taught me about policing, because I policed all across London, the most challenging parts, and that's where you actually learn how to talk to members of the public.
Yeah.
Who sometimes could be quite confrontational for whatever reasons. It could be mental health. And, from TSG, I went on to work in Lambeth. So I went straight away to Streatham, which was really good as a sergeant. And I went straight into custody for a bit. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty good. Learned a lot in custody, because you had to learn pretty quick. You only do a 2-week course, and then they put you straight into custody. And then I was a sergeant on the section for a while, and then I did neighbourhood policing, so that was pretty good. And from neighbourhood policing, I then left, become a detective in professional standards. So I did that for a few years, and then from there I got promoted to be a DI, and I went back to Brixton.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was one of the most exciting periods in my policing career, because I dealt with a really complex and multi-layered policing environment, which at the time was the most challenging in Europe. Mm-hmm. But I made a lot of friends. It was really good to work with the community there. I learnt a lot. And it was good to listen to people, which I found which was quite important. But also, you always have to respect the police officers there, because they policed in a really diverse environment, and they learnt very quickly that to listen in to our community members, and most importantly, a lot of the officers there realised who they were.
Yeah.
Which was quite important. And then from then on, I went to the forensic converter teams. I missed a little bit there. I did Lambeth Gangs Task Force, which was...
Oh, okay, that must be quite an interesting one.
Oh, well, it was. It was really good. I learned a lot from there. You really started to understand these young people, why they were involved in it, and it's so complicated. But we built really positive relationships with the community of the good work what we've done. We locked up some bad people.
Yeah.
Which we had to do. We worked in partnership with our communities. But there's one arrest that I wanted to just mention here. It was when I was a young PC. I know we're skipping back, because I think one of these arrests I always remember. Mm-hmm. It's about out on foot patrol, and we're walking up Charing Cross Road, and it's late at night. And we just saw this guy. He was involved in drugs, I'll just say that at that point. We stopped him. We searched him. He had a bit more on him. He didn't speak a word of English. Okay, he was from South America, and we brought him back to the police station. And whilst taking his fingerprints on the fingerprints machine, it came back that he was wanted. Okay, so basically, what we had done, we had arrested a hitman from Colombia.
Oh my word!
Yeah, he just had a bad night that he got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a true story, because he was arrested by the murder team, and he was arrested, and he was also wanting to be sought by the extradition unit in the Met as well. And I always remember that about going out when you're on foot patrol, because that's what I did, a lot of that foot patrol.
Yeah.
And about speaking to members of the public and feeling comfortable and confident with your stop and search powers when using them in the right way.
That's quite an interesting arrest. It's also, when you think of all the information that we use now, you probably didn't have that information back then to hand,
no,
or up to the standard that we have today. So you never really know what you're walking into.
No, and what it is people might say it's a copper's nose or a gut instinct, and you know what? Some of it is that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't have the technology. I didn't have BWV. I wasn't in a car able to do name checks or anything like that. It was just a radio. And sometimes it was just a knack of just seeing movement. And look, I'll tell you about another arrest, which was something I'll never forget. It was something that you may have seen in a movie many years ago. It was I was out with my inspector when we was on the TSG, and saw this guy just run past us. It was a hot day like this, and the guy was wearing a trench coat, right, and trainers on. Some people might have just thought, well, you know, he just decided to wear it, but straight away I thought something's wrong as he ran past us.
Yeah.
Oh, and he had an umbrella in his hand as well. So I said to my inspector, I said, Governor, we got to go after this guy. So we held down a black cab, we jumped in the cab, and the cab sped after him down the road. And we pulled up because he was outside the taxi. He said, oh, you know, can I help you guys? I said, look, we just had a normal conversation with him. I just asked him, what you doing here? And he just said, look, I'm here to buy tickets to go to the cinema. And just by his actions and the way he was talking to me, I had sufficient grounds to search him. So we found stolen credit cards on him. And, you know, that day, it was a life-saving moment for us, because what actually transpired as he had seriously assaulted his partner and he assaulted his child at home. So when we went back to do a Section 18 at their address, we found his partner who had been seriously assaulted by him and the child as well. And if we didn't go there, you know, God knows what would have happened, because she was on the floor, the baby was crying and screaming, you know.
Yeah.
And we got him in custody for that. So that's one of many stories that I could tell, you know. But I think it's important to just say is, you know, when you deal with all these arrests and over a period of time,
Yeah.
because I've come up into policing into about approximately nearly 30 years.
A long time.
Yeah, you know, and I know what it's like. And the cops on the front line, they need the support. Okay, the benefit of the experience of people being able to sit down and talk to them. You know, and I look at our sergeants; they're really good. You know, and it's just for them to realise that, you know, us as senior officers, okay, we've been there. We've been there, and that time when you might see us walk past, you might think, crikes, I might not be able to speak to him. But we've all been there. We've been there when it's worked late turns. We've been there early turns. We've been there when we've had to juggle the childcare. So we really do understand, and, you know, it's just, it's one of those moments where I have to say, you know, Mel, I have to give you a little bit of a fist bump, yeah?
Yeah. Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you. It's a lot of interesting stories on the arrests that come in. You never really expect that from a person. It's like there could always be something underlying under the crime that they commit. That there's something going on further in the background, and you don't know unless you actually speak to someone. So it's quite good that you were able to pick that up on that day.
As a cop, you've got to be inquisitive.
Yeah.
You've got to ask questions. Okay, and you've just got to sometimes think to yourself, you know, you may want to give someone the benefit of the doubt. Okay, because you always can, okay. But sometimes you know when you get that feeling something's not right, and you should be able to explore that mind as well.
Yeah.
That thought, something's not right here, let me look into it. You know, and stick by your guns. Because we always can apologise if we get something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. That shows the humility as a cop. That, you know, sorry that I've stopped you, but this is what I thought. And, you know, take someone who's got a lot of pride to walk away and say, look, I got it wrong that time. I think the public at the moment, there's so many different things what have happened in policing. And, you know, legitimacy of policing is being challenged. It's been challenged all over, okay, from the time we put on our uniform, okay, to even in our own minds as cops, we're challenging whether we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, okay? And the only way you're going to get through that is marching through it and just doing the right thing. You know, proud to wear the uniform, proud to do the right thing. And, you know, and there's times where you just got to say, look, I got it wrong. But also, the most important thing is that all the public want to see, they want to see a cop out on the street, okay? We're feeling proud in that uniform. And if someone does something wrong, you know, yeah, they've got to get arrested. But sometimes talking to them, giving somebody a warning is just as good, is just as powerful.
So we've spoken about your time in the Met Police. You've now obviously evolved into a career into Kent Police. What was the transition like?
Yeah, transition as a transferee. Whoa, I can remember the day before me coming to Kent, you know, thinking to myself, have I made the right decision? It was, 25 years in the Met and then coming to Kent. And I remember the first day I came into Kent and, the reception was good. It was really good. It was, how can I say, everything was laid out for me on the first day, which I was pretty shocked at. There was an agenda for me for different people I had to meet. And I was always just a little bit cautious because, naturally that's the type of person that I am.
Cool.
And I met loads of people. People were really nice to me, and I was thinking to myself, this is a little bit weird here. How comes everybody's so nice to me? It was very welcoming. I remember my first day, I had to meet loads of everybody, lots of different people, and our chief constable was my ACC. So I had to have 2 meetings with him. So the first meeting was, hi Sean, nice to meet you, and what team do you support? Maybe settled me down and whatever. And then the next meeting was his expectations. So it was a little bit, wow, I'm not used to this. And so Mr. Smith came in, and it was sort of like, I can describe it, 2 old school detectives sitting in front of each other, and it was just like, let's see how good you are now then, son.
Feeling the pressure.
Yeah. So it was that moment I just thought to myself, you know what, I'm here to do a job, here to do business. And I went straight into the county lines and gangs team, which I was used to dealing with, and with the crime squad. So I had support from the whole force. There's too many names to mention, but everybody was extremely welcoming, and let me be my authentic self. Mm-hmm. Okay, the Met will teach you about dealing with criticality, but Kent will teach you how to be a leader. Okay, so that's so important.
I like those words. As a chief superintendent, tell us a bit about what you do in your current role.
Oh, wow. Well, I've just started my current role, 2 weeks in, Strategic Prevention Command. Really important role. It's about building really good relationships with our partners, our communities, and building relationships with other forces across the region as well. So I work with health, education. I work with our local authorities as well. I've started to work with our community groups as well, supporting the divisions. There's a lot to do in this role. So I've been there 2 weeks, and I have to say, it's pretty exciting. I was the divisional commander for North Division. That was a tough journey. I have to honestly say, I've done a lot of exciting roles in policing. North Division was extremely exciting, but very, very challenging as well. There's a lot that goes on North Division. It's got fantastic staff, fantastic communities. I have to say it's the best job I've ever done in policing, because I like to think I left there and left a bit of legacy.
How long did you do that role for?
I did it for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years that I can honestly say, when I started, I didn't have a lot of grey hairs, but my beard now is...
I don't see that many.
But I tell you what, I'll never forget it. So you got to think about, I'm a kid from London, from the East End. You got to think about my parents came here from Barbados. Would they have ever thought when they came over here, in the 70s, that their son would have ended up as a chief super on North Division? No, but it's one of their proudest moments, and it's one of mine as well. So, a lot of respect there to both my parents there.
Tell us a bit about some of the major cases that you've dealt with, and which one has been the toughest.
Ooh, I was fortunate enough to deal with a case, and I really want to talk about this case because it dealt with someone who was quite vulnerable adult female. She was taken over to the Caribbean and left there. So she's been taken from her home by her carer, and she's just left there. And she's left there homeless, living on the streets, no friends at all, and she's just left her there. And the carer has taken ownership of her house and her assets in the UK. And she's just left her there, destitute. This elderly lady was going into the British Embassy every day saying, I live in the UK, I've been left here, and they didn't believe her. Her support worker in the UK came into the police station and tried to report her missing on more than one occasion, and she wasn't taken seriously. until they actually looked at the missing report and looked at this and just thought something's not right here. You know, and it's about taking a proper account from her, quite a full account from the support worker, then actually talking to the British consulate in Jamaica to actually say, are they aware of this individual? And they said that they were. And it's about working with British Airways to actually bring her back to the UK. Okay, so she's brought back. She's a vulnerable adult, quite elderly. She's in her 80s, and we've had to do a quite long interview with her, lots of breaks. And it transpired that, you know, she had been financially exploited by her carer, took ownership of her house in the UK. But the thing is, it wasn't just that victim there. We managed to find out that there were about 3 other victims. One of the victims has passed away as well. And it was quite heartbreaking, because you saw these elderly people who had lost all their life savings, and some have lost their property as well. And then you've got to think of the individual who's done this, has got no morals, got no scruples, but felt quite comfortable. We managed to track her down. She was arrested, brought into custody, and breached her bail a number of times. And when we went into her home address for the Section 18 search, we found loads of SIM cards there, you know, loads of applications for benefits. Even though we'd taken her passport off her, she had tried to get other passports. But then, you know, to really find out the background of the actual case, we actually had to spend 2 weeks in Jamaica, which I have to say, really beautiful country, really supported by the Jamaican constabulary and the judiciary. They supported us enough, but it was a case that took us about a year from cradle to grave to convict this woman. But also, the thing is trying to get something back for these victims was the most important thing. That's a case what will always stick with me. You know, I could talk to you about County Line's job, but because that involves young people who get exploited. But yet again, that's I can tell you a job where Van was constantly, you know, intelligence is so important at the moment. The national intelligence model, you've got to think about Kent invented that.
Yeah.
It's something in history that Kent's got a lot of history about. And you're talking about a van coming across a bridge numerous times on ANPR, and intelligence supporting it, saying, from members of the public saying that this van's selling drugs. Cut a long story short, because I'm quite conscious that I could talk for ages.
That's okay.
Yeah, is that, you know, that van was being hired, a zip van, to somebody in another part of the country, and the drugs which were linked to that van were in a house. I'm not allowed to give locations, but was in a house in central London. And cut a long story short, the suspect who we arrested for it had properties in Dubai, properties in the UK, had assets in central London, safety deposit boxes with lots of Rolex and Omega watches. Was part of a really strong crime family, and he just slipped up. He got caught slipping, and we got him. You know, and I think at the end of it, there was no, how can I say, it wasn't hard done by it. Always shook our hands and said we did a good job, because, you know, he's still in HMP at the moment.
That's amazing. I mean, your story of the elderly being victims, I can see why that's so heartbreaking, because, you know, they give everything and then they want to retire and settle down, and someone takes that away. It's a bit heartbreaking. Unfortunate that something like that would happen.
Yeah, it's beyond heartbreaking, because you could resonate with her, because that could be anybody's grandmother. Yeah, and you know, but she was strong, and she was living homeless on the street in Jamaica, and no one was taking notice of her. She was going to the British Embassy. It was only till, you know, one of the DCs said to me, "Boss, we need to have a look at this case." It always pays to listen.
Yeah. With all the years of experience that you have, with the 30 years, how do you manage a work-life balance?
Oh, wow.
Any tips for a new starter?
Oh, Well, let's talk about this morning, okay? 5 o'clock this morning, I'm up. I've got up and I've gone in the gym, okay? So I think to myself, I've got to try and keep myself physically and mentally, emotionally strong. So I go to the gym. I've got a little workout that I've got, and I stick to it. I try to eat really well, okay? I look at podcasts and I read books around health and fitness. And I follow those. But I think the most important thing, you've got to listen to your body, okay? And I also say for any young cop, if you don't feel well, you don't feel right, you've got to be able to put your hand up and say, take time out, okay? So I think that's quite important to do that, because there's been times in my career when I've gone at 100 miles per hour, haven't ate right, haven't slept well, and then I've just burnt out, okay? But what I would say to anybody is the work-life balance is, I come from a generation policing where we didn't even talk about this. We were just expected to be like robots, and it's a detriment to a lot of us. A lot of men are not able to talk about their emotions or when they're ill. And I was, I'm one of them still. I find it's quite challenging and hard to do that. But through time, I am starting to learn how to express myself in different ways. But what I would say is, this morning going to the gym is something that I have to do. It's a routine. Come back, have breakfast. It's about getting ready and thinking about what I'm going to do during the day and when I come to work.
So how would you manage the emotional impact of some cases?
That's a tough one. Because I'll tell you why. We talked about the vulnerable adult there. And we talked about the time when I had to go around their dress and the guy had assaulted his partner and his child.
Yeah.
You're going to think to anybody there, you're going to have some serious emotions there of thinking, how could somebody actually do that? And, it's with the vulnerable adult, tears did come down my eyes, maybe not for everybody to see, but the emotion was there to just say, look, how could this happen? Because I thought straight away, this could be my gran. And that someone's picked her up and left her in Jamaica destitute. She didn't know anybody there. And that was quite hurtful.
Yeah.
And I just think you've got to talk to your colleagues
about
these things. And open up to say, look, this is how you're feeling. And I think that's the greatest thing in police. In some jobs, when you're writing up your evidence, you sit back and you relax and you do talk about the case. Or talk to your supervisor or your line manager about it. There's a time when I was on TSG and it was, we're involved in a serious disturbance, public order incident where it was a fight between two football teams, and it was serious stuff. And I always remember that because, in public order, people think it's quite glamorous. It's not. It is not at all. Okay, when you get bricks thrown at you, you get roadside furniture thrown at you, and and you're up close with individuals, and you've got your shields there, and you're trying to push the crowd back, and then you strike them with your baton. And this is in pitch dark, so there's hardly anything. You're just in with street lighting. And there was a moment there where I actually thought to myself, you know what, this is going a bit too far here. This really could go completely wrong. And, it's that fight or flight. But, as your cops, you just stay there and you fight, And it was only for us lucky on that day that the mounted branch came in and saved us the day. But emotionally, I was extremely drained from that. And I was, at that moment, I thought to myself, you know what, this is a point here where I could lose my life potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite an emotional time. But I think talking to you about it is sort of like a little bit of a release from it. And I think in general, you've got to talk to people to let people know how you feel, I think both my sons now could be watching this when I, talk about podcasts, but they must be, I've never really gone through any of these emotions with them about policing, and I rather, sometimes
speak to someone that's in a similar role,
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
might see it in a different way and help you reflect on some more positives about the job that you've done.
Yeah. You can. I think when you talk through a lot of the cases that you deal with your work colleagues, then they can resonate with you.
Yeah.
But even though families and friends, they're always intrigued about your job and your career and your jobs, and talking through with them at times as well is quite helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I just makes me think of one of my own jobs where I've had a parent with 3 kids in the house, and I felt so sorry for the parent's mental health. The parent tried to take her life in front of her kids, and her eldest child was basically raising the other 2 kids. And to be there in the moment and not cry in front of the child, because you know that the child is basically being an adult, and you think of all the aces that the child has to go through for the future as an adult, was heartbreaking. But coming back, reflecting on what you've done with your colleagues, and your colleagues reassuring you that the steps you've made was the right steps to better that child's future, really helps with the emotional impact.
It does. And listening to that story there, it shows me straight away that we definitely got the right person in Kent Police. That you're able to relate to that family and also do the right thing, which I always say is quite important. And I think young people who are aspiring to be police officers, it's okay for me to say what I've been through, but when they see someone like yourself giving your own personal experiences, they can resonate with that and think to themselves, you know what, that's who I want to be. I want to be like Mel. Like me, who wants to be like Sean?
I'll work my way up there one day. So what's the support and camaraderie like at Kent Police?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And you know what about it? It's genuine. Okay? And it's authentic. Because people are able to relate and resonate with you as a human being, and being able to sit down with you and say to you, you know what? It's okay to express yourself. I think it's quite a mature organisation where people are able to express themselves, whether they've done something right or wrong, but also it's a learning organisation. I see the young officers all are fully aware of the challenges and the complex nature of policing at the moment, and they feel quite comfortable to articulate it. You've just talked about a classic case there that we're confronting with mental health. You came across really well, quite articulate, and that shows you, the quality of young people that we've got in Kent Police at the moment. Its camaraderie comes from everywhere. It comes from the top. You can be involved in an incident and you get a phone call from a chief superintendent or superintendent. I would like to think when I was on North Division, I was open. I spoke to everybody when I had to, and there was times that I intervened and made a call. But it's not just me. All the senior leaders are like that. They'll make the call. We're a caring and thoughtful organisation, and our people mean the most to us. So they're the centre of everything what we do.
Have you ever had a scary moment in your career where you've realised the risks of what police officers do? Wow. Sounds like there were many.
Yeah, well, there's 2 incidents. What I'll say is I did a plainclothes operation in central London, and I will never know what happened that night, but all I remember is me leaving home being really happy, going to work, and going to a really busy location in central London, plainclothes, working with my colleagues, and then me and a gentleman engaged in a conversation where I suspected him of something, stop and search, having a conversation with him, and then my colleagues just jumping on him and putting him to the floor. And then when I saw him on the floor, he had like an 8-inch kitchen knife, and he told my colleagues that he was come there tonight to kill me, as in the sense that he thought that I was somebody who had sold him fake drugs. So basically, he was going to kill me that night because he thought I was a drug dealer. So that's how close I came to death on that occasion. And I think the other time was when I was on TSG that we did a stop, and you're always told to be careful when you stop people. We stopped this guy, and then he pulled out a butcher's knife, a meat cleaver, and he took a swipe at 4 of us, and we all stepped back, and we were all lucky not to get slashed by him. But as I said, the camaraderie, we went away, we spoke about it, and we learnt a lot. There was an incident further early on in my career where I'm really thankful for other policing agencies to be around, because I was somewhere like an observation post, looking at a certain location, but potentially that location was going to be bombed that night. But there was interventions that took place, but we were only told after that this was going to happen. So look, I've had some
few near-death experiences by the sound of things.
I've had some experiences that I realise, how fortunate I have been sometimes.
Yeah. So this segment is a bit of fun, and a chance to find out more about you as a person. What is your go-to shift snack?
Oh my gosh. Okay, Bad Sean.
Bad Sean, okay.
Is always going to be Haribo's.
Oh.
If anybody who knows me really well, I'm a sweetie fanatic.
Okay.
Yeah. Do not leave any sweets around me. Okay, because I will sniff them out and find them. I just love sweets. Yeah. Good Sean is going to say, "Oh yeah, it's going to be fruit." But Bad Sean, you're always going to find sweet wrappers hidden somewhere.
Noted. Would it be original or Tangfastics?
It could be original, Tangfastics. It's always a little bit sweet and sour.
Ah, yeah. I'm with you.
Sweet and sour.
Mm-hmm. Good combination.
Yeah, and you know what? Going back to that, it used to be Bad Sean would always know where were the best fish and chip shops on shift.
Sounds like I need to shift with you.
And it was always, I knew where the best fish and chip shops were. Mm-hmm. I remember there was no internet then. Mm-hmm. It was just a failure, or it worked really well. So it was chip shops I had been to before. Definitely go to that one. Chips are superb.
Love it. If you had a superpower, what superpower would it be?
Reading people's minds.
Okay, why?
Just interested in just seeing what people are thinking. That's the main one, reading people's minds.
It would make the job a lot easier, I would agree.
Yeah. A lot of people, walk through walls or, but it's just reading people's minds. That's a lot simple, easier.
The closest thing to that right now was reading people's body language.
Very
vital role.
Yeah. It is. But it's interesting. I've always just said to myself, if I wasn't going to be a police officer, I'd most probably want to try and be a psychologist. Yeah.
I get it. I can totally relate. So if you could choose to have a celebrity on shift with you, I'll let you think long and hard about that one. Who would you have?
Well, that's a tough one, That's a tough one. I would honestly say it would have to be start off with Barack Obama. I wanted to sit next to me and just talk. I just want to hear about his journey. I've read his books. He's good at sport. I think he's quite humorous. I think I'd like to go out on shift with him. Yeah, it'd be really good. But I think that's it. I think for fun, I really like. I can't remember the TV program where it's like Jamie Redknapp, Freddie Flintoff. I love that program where it's those guys when they're out, and if I could go in a police vehicle with them for a shift. I can't remember the name of the program, but if it was them, I'd love to be out with them because I just think it'd be really good bants in the vehicle with them.
Final question on that is, what do you wish the public knew about the role of policing?
I think that we're just human beings. I'm proud to be a police officer. I'm really proud. I wear the uniform with pride. I think the majority of the public, they really do like us. That they know that they need us at some time in their life. We're like any organisation. We're not perfect, but we're learning from our mistakes. So I really do think show them that we're human. Let them know that sometimes we make mistakes, but also we are really good people at the end of the day.
Amazing. And with your 30 years of experience, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Listen. Take every opportunity that comes your way and be authentic. Don't change yourself to be anybody else but yourself. Because as the time you try and be anybody else, it's not going to work out. You're going to get found out sooner or later. And I think be proud of yourself, have confidence. Because when I was a young man, I didn't have a lot of confidence. So I think it's so important for young people in general to feel that, we've all been there. We've all been young once. And to the younger Sean, I'll say to you, I've got your back.
Very, very good words. What advice would you give to someone thinking of joining Kent Police?
I'll say to somebody who was going to thinking about Kent Police, is give it a go. Okay, you've got to think about why you want to join. Okay, policing is a great career. It's made me the person who I am today. It's given me opportunities that no other job could have given me. It's a hard job, but also it's very rewarding. I'd ask them to mostly come into the police station and find out a lot about it. If they know friends who are in police, and speak to them about it. And most importantly, I say to them, give it a go. Really do give it a go. But also realise that, you can have some good times, fantastic times. Also, you're going to have some bad times, and you just got to work through those. It's not bad, always bad. I'll say it's one of the best jobs in the world. And I think a lot of people would say that. Because you've got to think about it. If you look on TV, it's all cop programmes.
Yeah.
It's all cop programmes. And there's a lot of people around the world who love cop programmes, and they always talk about them. And it's a good job. It really is a good job.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook and LinkedIn, where we'll be posting previews of our upcoming episodes. You can watch this episode by subscribing to our YouTube channel and find out more about the variety of career opportunities available by searching Kent Police Careers. See you soon.